Hey there, it's Seth Borko, the head of Skift Research, and I've got a brand new report that I want to share with you today. It's called our State of Travel 2024 report. It's perhaps the single most comprehensive report we do every year, and the best part, it's free to download right now. We have 350 plus insights in this report with pretty much a chart for basically any sector. Do you need a chart on hotels? We've got that. A chart on airlines? We've got it. A chart on consumer behavior? Guess what? We've got that too. I really appreciate if you check out our State of Travel report. You can download it now by going to skift.com/state of travel with dashes between every word. So that's skift.com/state-of-travel. Download the report, check it out, and let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Skift India Travel Podcast, where we dive deep into the latest trends and insights shaping the world of travel. Today, we're bringing you a comprehensive view of the business travel market in India. Whether you're part of a multinational or a small business, if corporate travel is on your radar, you won't want to miss this. As we will be talking about corporate travel's opportunities, growth drivers, industry dynamics, and the evolving expectations of Indian corporate travelers. And to help us navigate through this entire maze, we have Avinash Chandani, a partner at Deloitte India. Welcome to the show, Avinash.
Hi, thank you for having me for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Avinash. I know that Deloitte has brought out a corporate travel report very recently, which mentions that the Indian corporate travel market is poised for growth. So, can you talk a bit through, what are the key drivers behind this trend, and how do you see it evolving over the next few years compared to the growth in the global corporate travel?
Yeah, sure. Let me start by actually saying that the India corporate travel market today is estimated about $10.6 billion. And this constitutes roughly 20% of the overall travel market in India. And this corporate travel market, as per our analysis, is expected to double, which is going to expected to reach to about 20 odd billion dollars by 2030. And some of the factors that are driving, growth for this, for it to, reach this size and scale are primarily growth in infrastructure, which is both surface and air connectivity. So, and that's making corporate travel more convenient and accessible. There's a lot of growth in small and medium enterprise businesses in India. They're also playing a crucial role. These companies contributing to the increase in demand for business travel, as they explore travel to newer markets and forge alliances. There is also India is now being looked at as a hub for talent due to its inherent advantages that we have. So we're seeing a lot of multinationals also set up global capability centers in India, which is requiring travel for employees both to and fro. Another major factor here is the rise in meetings, incentive conferences, exhibitions, right? So this travel has kind of increased in post-COVID scenario where we are seeing more corporates organize large-scale conferences, meetings to facilitate better engagement and connect with the employees.
Yeah.
Also, if you see, India has been hosting large-scale summits like the G20 summit recently,
G20.
and that's
Exactly.
paving way for more such eminent meets in the future.
Avinash, when you say that the corporate travel market is valued at $10.6 billion, this is domestic as well as international, right?
Yeah, this is the India market, not global. This is the market in India, which comprises both, Indians traveling India
Within the country as
within the
well as
country as well
outside the
as
country.
outside. Yeah.
Also, Avinash, I think, of course, the factors that you pointed out are great, but also I think if you talk about it in a behavioral manner, it's also about the fact that Indians would rather meet someone, whether it is a business deal, whether it is any other events or
Yeah.
Indians would rather meet people face to face rather than do it over a video or over a phone call, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, I think that's, see, even from I'm just, if I wear the corporate lens, right? During COVID, everybody was working remotely. And that's where I think, through multiple, while it facilitated a new way of working, and new trends kind of evolved because of the pandemic. But in the post pandemic era, what's happening is most organizations are now looking at employees coming back to work so that they are able to live the culture of these organizations, right? Otherwise there's not really a strong sense of association with the organization that they work with, right? So at least if they're back to work 2 to 3 days a week, in the hybrid environment, it really helps get a lot of stuff done. There are, this communication is a lot better, sense of belonging is a lot more, right? So
Exactly. Yeah,
that's what's kind of
absolutely.
driving it from that lens. Yes, and definitely I think virtually, yes, once I think there is a sense of comfort, then virtual meetings also become an option. But yes, I think as Indians we prefer to meet more in person.
Yeah, and of course, now with the corporate travel market valued at, as you mentioned, $10.6 billion, Avinash, how significant is the contribution of, what we call SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, and how are their needs different from those very large corporations?
So the small medium enterprise business market roughly contributes to about 30% of the overall corporate travel market in India.
Okay.
Now, this market has been underserved, for a long time, given, their needs have been more sporadic, right? And but I think this segment is only poised to grow, and contributions likely to only increase because there's greater focus now from the government also, right? On this segment, because there is so much that the government is doing to encourage exports, make in India. So this is only going to further fuel growth. Roughly what we've seen is, when we say small medium enterprises, with employee strength of about 250 odd people, their travel expenditure is ballpark about a crore a year, right? And like we spoke, for these enterprises, it's having those face-to-face meetings is more crucial to establish that connect with their partners, right? Because of the positioning that they have in the market. But they have largely, if I can say, low volume, and which is and sporadic demand, right? Which is very different from large corporate, will the larger employee base, consistent demand, right? Every at least where 35 to 40% of the employees do at least one trip every year. It's the need of an MSME is different. So to cater to this demand, right, we are seeing a lot of travel management companies come up with solutions which are if I could say, more self-serving,
Mhm.
right? And it's where it becomes a lot easy for them to kind of bundle offerings, and
Avinash, the rebound in corporate travel post pandemic, especially in India, has been very notable. So what are the industries that are leading this recovery? And could you also explain, while you are answering that, could you also explain why do you think that these industries have a greater travel appetite?
Sure. So if you look at corporate travel, I think definitely it's rebounded, and growth rates are at least the numbers that we had pre-pandemic levels have been breached. Growth has absolutely kind of rebounded. What we did as part of a study, we looked at the top 100 NSE listed firms, and they roughly contribute, interestingly, about 2.2 billion, which is about 20% of the total India corporate travel market, right? So their spends,
Mhm.
right, is roughly 20%, the top 100 listed firms. So if I further dig deeper and see which sectors are they really part of, so are your IT services, your banking, financial services, insurance companies, right? These are the largest spenders on corporate travel, and spends for them roughly contributes to about this, I say, this 2.2 billion, roughly 50% of uh, this market this expense is done by these two segments.
Interesting. And what is the reason that these they have a greater travel appetite?
I think it's just the nature of business, right? So with IT services itself, really, needs a lot of people to be on site, for its deployment of projects which are more long term, both and this I think goes both ways, within the country as well as export of
Mhm.
services. And but even if it's the BFSI sector, I think there's fair bit of demand that needs to get generated, and in various pockets within the country itself. So I think these two really are at the top end of the spends
Okay,
today.
as the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Avinash, also blended travel, and workations have, are some of the notable trends among business travelers.
Yeah.
So, how are corporate travel policies adapting to these changes? And also, when first you can answer that. I'll ask you another question related to that as well.
So interestingly, the terms called bleisure, and that's really what we saw as one of the most emerging trends with corporate travelers. This really means that blending work with leisure. So they were when you travel for work, you spend some part of the business travel for leisure purposes, and actually that's forcing suppliers to transform the business model themselves to cater to these emerging preferences. We actually ran a survey, and interestingly, about 30% of those respondents on that survey kind of said that they extend their trips for leisure for about 1 or 2 days, right? Um, um, and about 20% of the folks in the survey said they extend that by about 3 or 4 days as well, right? So we're really seeing this as a demand, but what really kind of happens is the destin with these corporate travelers, way the destinations also need to adapt a little to their preferences, because they're seeing it's a blend. They don't typically switch the property that they're living in, right? So so there is some kind of tweaking that's also required from a hospitality perspective, which we've seen most of the companies do, so that they make more appealing workspaces, more convenient amenities, local activities, right? So yeah, we're seeing all of that happen. And when we checked with some of those respondents, about 40% of them also said that like they continue in the same accommodation that they book for corporate travel.
Uh-huh. Um, you spoke about the accommodation part. I also wanted to ask you about, how has the preference for accommodation evolved among these business travelers? Like we talked about blended travel. People going for business as well as leisure. And especially with the rise of alternative accommodations and short-term rentals, how has this preference changed?
you know there are newer models that are also kind of emerging, right? So if it's for long term kind of stays, then we are seeing also companies tie up with have some guest house kind of arrangements. Or if you're seeing hotels today, right? So the business class hotels, which are primarily more city centric, they're also adapting. So they have, if you see most of the TV screens that are there, they will be all Wi-Fi smart enabled, right? So one could actually project your laptops, work from the hotel room itself. In terms of activities in that the hotel offers, I think there is the way they kind of blend that into the overall theme is interesting these days. Also, I've seen some of them offer curated kind of help desk or packages where they'll offer you a city tour and all of that more willingly today, right? That's the entire concierge services is kind of expanding there to cater to at least if you're traveling to a city that you haven't been to before, right? And you, like I said, about 80% will extend by 1 or 2 days, right? With that much time in hand, they'll want to go and at least experience the local culture and landmarks in the city. So I've just
Correct.
seen all of that more getting pronounced.
And especially with innumerable research reports saying that Indian travelers are now seeking more experiences. I think that's interesting, that they would
Yeah.
want to, if they're staying at a place, then they would want to see more experiential tourism as well. And of course, Avinash, when we are
You see wellness also, right? Some of them are also looking at, wellness options, right? So,
exactly.
you're seeing that kind of evolve more in hotels these days, right? So you will most often see them offering some kind of wellness package or solution where you just maybe want to kind of, blend into that as
Interesting. Yeah, and now with post COVID, I think wellness, mental and physical well-being has
absolutely.
become top of the charts for everyone, and of course for companies, also for employees as well, right?
Are you tired of sifting through endless resumes looking for the perfect candidate to fill a leadership opening? Skift Executive Search can help. We have an insider view of the travel industry and can leverage both our expertise and connections to find your next rockstar hire. To learn more, visit skift.com/exec-search or email us at execsearch@skift.com.
Avinash, of course, while we are talking on the topic of corporate travel, we cannot miss out on travel management companies. Of course, you mentioned a bit about how travel management companies are catering to SMEs, but how do you see the role of these travel management companies evolving with the rise of, stuff like self-booking tools and digital platforms?
So I think their role is beyond, just self booking and what you mentioned. So actually, let me give you some context here. So managed travel, has traditionally, like I said, was being linked with large corporate, right, who relied primarily on their travel partners for arranging the travel requirements, which is flight bookings, hotels, visa, currency, on ground transportation, in all of that. Now, with corporate travel becoming more dynamic and requirements getting more complex, right, with also SMEs, feeding into the demand, right? So, travel management companies are also evolving. And if you will see major online travel aggregators, whether it was the likes of Make My Trip, Yatra, Thomas Cook, all of them have started expanding and they're focusing on this corporate travel market, and they set up focus teams that and platforms that cater to this demand, right? And historically, this was kind of dominated only by the multinational TMCs like Amex and FCM Travels, right? But you're seeing a lot of domestic companies who are also setting up this corporate travel wing. And when we actually kind of dwell a little deeper at of this uh, corporate travel market in India, about 25% of this is served by the TMCs. And amongst these TMCs, mix of both Indian and multinational, about Make My Trip, Amex, Yatra, these are the top three, and in the segment, and they comprise more than 65% of this market. And if you speak of how the roles are changing, how where they are where all they are servicing, there is there's this, like I said, there are more integrated offerings, so it's more reporting, reconciliation features, self booking tools, virtual implants that at their offices. There are chatbot services, call center. So there is the demand also from the corporate travel managers at the companies. Demand from corporate uh, travel managers, is evolving, right? So it's not only, when companies are looking at choosing their, TMC, they're not only looking at price, while that's yet one of, the dominant factors, but also, they look at, features, like on the what technology enabled features they're offering, whether it's a self booking tool, automated workforce workflows, accuracy and transparency, because again GST reconciliation invoicing becomes critical analytical capabilities, right, for the tool to kind of throw back some insights to say how many travel, how many followed did travel within the policy, how many took exceptional approvals, how many folks are taking red eye flights, right? So they can also look at managing well-being as well as have more focus on cost and have curated better policies to manage their cost.
Mhm. Also, Avinash, technology has been highlighted as a critical enabler in the corporate travel sector. So how are of course, when we talk about technology, we cannot not talk about AI.
Yeah.
So how are AI chatbots, these expense management tools, and other digital platforms transforming travel management?
So I think from a corporate travel perspective, it's increasingly helping prioritize, convenience, right? From a user perspective,
Mhm.
because it's playing a even more critical role in seamlessly integrating processes, enhancing efficiency, and prioritizing the entire customer-centric experiences. Now, when we are seeing, AI and the advent of AI, there are some interesting use cases that are evolving in this industry for, whether it is from an itinerary planning perspective, travel-related query resolutions, airfare tracking solutions, or rebooking flights at reduced rates, right? Also, personalized recommendations on flights and hotels based on your previous, travels that you undertaken and your budgetary allowance, that you have based on your grades. We're seeing a lot of these features, kind of being coming in through the AI-enabled chatbot or
Through technology, basically, how
auto
technology is
technology, yeah,
helping
whether it's AI
streamline.
enabled or it's machine learning, throwing back some of these insights, right? But yeah, it's a lot of personalization and
Yeah. Also, Avinash, there is an increasing importance of, data analytics as well. So, what kind of data insights are corporate travels companies most interested in when managing, travel expenses and behaviors? And, what are the innovations in travel and expense management that are on the horizon that could further, kind of streamline corporate travel?
So let me answer this question from a corporate perspective. So if I look at corporate travel managers, right, who hold
Mhm.
the budget for expenses, for them, these analytics are becoming extremely critical so that they're able to drive financial prudence, right? So we're not roughly to just give you some estimate about companies spend on an average about 1% of their top line on travel. Okay, so how they can just make it more efficient is somewhere we are seeing a lot of focus on. So from a data analysis perspective, definitely what they like to learn about is if I can say, what are the most frequently traveled destinations,
Mhm.
preferences, is everybody looking at an economy, or how what seats are they booking often, or it's on the premium side, or people are booking more business class kind of travel. When are they doing this booking? Because again, are you doing all last minute approval through exceptions, or you're within the policy where roughly you're booking your travel commitment a week in advance, right? How many of such cases are there? They're also using is to understand which cities are people more frequently traveling to, because now travels beyond, while definitely Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, the top three cities will drive most of the travel, but even beyond that, there's fair bit of travel to other cities, right? So we're where they could then look at having some corporate relationships so that they can get better fares on hotel rates.
Mhm.
So multiple such analytics is what they are kind of expecting, right? Men
Mhm.
versus women travels, and just to understand preferences, so that they can also make travel easy and more convenient and efficient for their employees. So I think the another cut here is also to just to focus on how wellness is for employees, right? So just so that they don't take those absolute late night or very early
Red eye
morning
flights.
flights. Yeah. So I think it's been looked at from various dimensions, both from saying how can we drive experiences, how can better experience for employees, how do we drive wellness? How do we also be more financially prudent? And yeah,
And
definitely workflows are important, right? So the whole approval mechanism and,
correct.
uh, uh, so that there is some process controls, checks and balances in the system to
Sure. Um,
expenses.
Avinash, of course, we spoke about the opportunities. Now, a bit about the challenges. Geopolitical tension, recession fears. They are looming large globally right now. So, how do you think these challenges could influence corporate travel strategies in India and beyond?
So when I look at geopolitical, risk, right, whether it's conflicts in Europe or the
Hmm.
Russia-Ukraine challenge, or is it the war in Israel? I think these definitely will disrupt global supply chains, and they will have some inflationary pressures. But having said that, we believe this is all going to be a very near term to a short term impact for inbound travel, really, right? Or even or for international travelers coming to India, or even international or domestic travelers going overseas, right? But 70 more than 75% of our market today of the corporate travel market is domestic. Only 30% is international. So to that way, I think with India, having a strong voice globally in such situations, and our strong macroeconomic factors and a stable political system, we don't see any major challenge for the
Hmm.
Indian corporate travel sector. In fact, some of these could also be looked at as opportunities for India, where I think companies might be looking to shift their supply chains, to India to also de-risk against some of these issues, right? So
Very
I think it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Avinash, the Deloitte report also mentions the impact of high airfares and accommodation rates on travel budgets. So how are companies balancing these costs with the need for travel?
Again, this is a very interesting question because I think demand is clearly outpacing supply here, right? Whether it's both hospitality demand or airfare, right? So
Mhm.
whether it's a Monday morning or a Saturday morning, you will see airlines, most flights being absolutely packed these days. So I think there is way more demand than their supply. And you know what? Actually, this is also driven because of during COVID or even before that, right? We saw a lot of airlines cut capacity. We saw some airlines, carriers, close operations or curtail operations in a large way. So some of them have not been able to really bounce back. So I think there is definitely a supply issue. And also, if I look at from a manufacturing lens, right? Both there are two major suppliers, right? Whether it's Boeing and Airbus, and for them also, I think demands are locked in for the next few years. And but definitely, uh, you know we are seeing that they will not be able to supply those planes for a certain time, right? So there is only limited potential there for us to get more airplanes, right? So while so we'll have our orders
Correct.
locked,
It's,
there's
it's a long
demand that we could
process.
we could have more. Yeah, we could definitely have more than I think we would have placed
Mhm.
orders for it. But so I think this will continue for the next at least 2 to 3 years till the time we start getting more planes into the country. But
Mhm.
having said that, is our companies looking at this? Yes, they are being more prudent. So just whether it's for absolutely essential internal meetings and something which you could where you build a relationship with the client, it's not very essential just for one meeting. Nobody is looking at traveling these days, right? So unless it's absolutely critical to business, right? So I think some norms like these, right? We are seeing more corporates institutionalize a lot today, so that they can be a little more prudent on these expenses, right? So maybe you'll not have 10 people flying in for one meeting, right? But you'll have essentially three or four of people who are important to be there in the room, right? The rest would join virtually, right? So you see some of these practices now come into play, right? There are certain weeks that are designated in a month as no fly no-fly weeks, right? So you're able to plan better, and you'll not plan any travel during that period, or you'll try and keep it virtual. So I think various tactics we are seeing corporates deploy, which is helping them kind of balance out.
Balance the cost.
Yeah, balance the
Also,
cost.
Avinash, there is a projected growth in international business travel. So, what are the countries or regions that you foresee could become, crucial markets for Indian corporates in the next, 2 to 3 years?
So when it comes to international travel destinations, definitely we see a lot of the top two or three that we saw was US, UK, and Europe. But we are also seeing a lot of demand from in the Middle East, like
Yes.
Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, right?
Okay. Thank you so much for this conversation, Avinash. I'm sure our readers have gained some really valuable insights into the evolving corporate travel market in India. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, and I hope the insights are
Yes,
valuable
of
to
course,
the
of
audience.
course, of course. I'm sure, because there's a lot of things that not all of us would know that you helped highlight. Thank you to our listeners for staying tuned for more industry insights through the Skift India Travel Podcast. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave a positive review. Your support helps us spread the word about the Skift India Travel Podcast and ensures we can keep bringing you free content every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever a new video drops. Thank you for your support.